Okay, so we are taking notes and walking through problems almost the entire day today, okay? So it's gonna take us a little while to understand this. In the beginning, it's not gonna make much sense what we're doing, but I promise as we go through the problems, it will make more sense. Your test is Tuesday. That means we have today, we are graphing tomorrow. On Monday, you will have a test review over topics 1 and 2, and then your test is Tuesday. Y'all, the end of the quarter's next Friday. So if we fail this test, it could mean bad news, okay? So here we go. We are going to start with a parent function. A parent function is the most basic type of function you can have. All of these hanging in my classroom are parent functions. They all start at the origin at 0, 0. Okay? So we are going to describe how this parent function moves. That's what we're doing. We're going to have an absolute value graph, which is the letter V, okay? That absolute value graph is gonna move up, down, left, right. It's gonna stretch and get tall and skinny, and it's gonna compress and get short and fat. We are doing all of this without a graph today. Tomorrow we will be graphing, okay? So we are going to write down 10 different ways that my graph can transform. Follow along, and then we'll explain what each of them mean, okay? So my first one says, I take a function, f of x is just a function, and I add 2 to the end of it. What happens to my graph? It means it moves up 2. So if I take that same function and I subtract 2, what direction did it move? It moved down 2. Okay? It moved down 2. I'm sorry? Yes, thank you. So now, what if I have f of, and my plus 2 is inside my function? Oh, we got controversy. One says right and one says left. This actually means it moves left 2, and I'll tell you why in just a minute, okay? If I have f of x minus 2, it moves to the right 2. And if you aren't listening, listen to this. These are the 3 most important words for transformation. Inside is opposite, always. We're going to do transformations for the rest of this school year. It's always going to be topic 2, okay? So transformations, topic 2, inside is always opposite. You're going to need those 3 words a lot today. So what happens now if I take my function and I make it a negative? All a negative means is that it flips or it reflects. Because this negative is on the outside, it reflects the x-axis. And I'll show you all of these in a minute, okay? So if I have my function and my negative is on the inside, it will reflect the y-axis. So we moved up, we moved down, we moved left, we moved right. We've reflect or flipped. It's flipping, okay? So now we have to see what it looks like if my graph gets big or small. So if I take my function f of x and I multiply it by a whole number or a number bigger than 1. This means it is a vertical stretch. It's stretching, it's getting bigger by 2. What if this had a 3 in front? What would it be vertically stretching by? By 3. And I'll show you how to tell if it's vertical or horizontal. So let's say I have my function, and instead of multiplying by 2, I'm multiplying by a half instead. Is my graph now getting bigger vertically or smaller vertically? It's getting smaller, but we don't say smaller. We'll say vertical compress by 1/2. And if you do IXL, I don't think it uses the word compress. I think it uses the word shrink. Compress and shrink means the same thing, to get smaller. Okay. All right, last 2. What if my f of x had the multiplication of 2 inside? Well, first it's horizontal. Now, what were those 3 really important words we said? Inside is opposite. So it looks like it should be getting big, but since it's opposite, what word are we going to use? The small, compress or shrink. What does it compress by? It will still compress by 1/2. When you're compressing, it has to be a number less than 1. So how can I remember that? Right here, this is basically a 2/1. And if I flip it, it becomes a 1/2. Okay. So if I have f of 1/2 x, it's still horizontal. It looks like a compress, but inside is opposite, so it has to be a horizontal stretch. What is it stretching by? Well, if I started with 1/2 and I flip it, what's it become? A stretch by 2. What if it said a horizontal stretch and this was a 1/3? What would it be stretching by? 3. See how to do this? Okay. Now, once again, those 3 important words go right here. Inside is opposite. So I'm going to show you what all this means. Like, how could I tell what words go with where the location of that 2 is? So if you took notes like me, you should have space right up here at the very top. If you didn't, that's okay. Just find a little area to put it. We are in the absolute value unit. Absolute value. Absolute value is 2 straight lines up and down. On your keyboard, it's right above the enter sign, okay, or the enter key. So I would have something that says y equals, and it's going to have these big absolute value lines. That's what the equation will look like. If I were to connect these lines, what letter did I just make? An H. And if you remember, we used the word horizontal. Horizontal is everything in the X direction. So everything between these 2 lines has to be in the X direction, okay? If I connect everything on the outside, it will connect with the letter V, which stands for vertical. So everything outside is vertical. So I'm going to zoom out for just a second. So if you see, This +2 was on the outside. I knew it moved up because outside is vertical and up and down is a vertical movement. These two numbers are on the inside. Inside is horizontal, so the movement would be left or right. Are we catching on to how this is working? Okay. So the last thing we're gonna write, and then we're gonna do some problems together, and write your stuff just like I do, nice and large, okay? Y equals, I'm gonna have A, absolute value of B, parentheses, X minus C. Then I'm gonna close my absolute value, and I'm gonna have a plus D. These are just letters because they stand for where numbers will be, okay? So if I look at my X is like my dividing line. Everything before X means something, and everything after X means something different. So this letter A is in the very, very front. Because it's in the front, it is vertical. This A can only be a stretch or a vertical compress. How do I know if something is a stretch or a compress? A stretch has to be greater than 1. So the numbers 2, 5, 7, the numbers 6/5. 6/5 is a fraction, but it's bigger than 1. A compress is a number less than 1. So the letter B, because it's inside, is a horizontal. Inside is horizontal. The letter B can only be a stretch or a compress. What were those 3 magic words? Inside is opposite. So if outside a stretch is larger than 1, inside a stretch is less than 1. And if outside a compress is less than 1, then inside a compress is greater than 1. Why did I divide this? Because everything before the X is only a stretch or a compress. There's no movement, okay? Everything after the X is where your up, down, left, right comes from. The C is inside, so it can move left or it can move right. And the D is outside, so it can only move up or down. Sounds like a lot, but as we're going through these problems we're about to do, I think you'll catch on to it's very repetitive, okay? So we're gonna turn the page and we're gonna do some problems together, and then I'm gonna give you some problems to do. I would not write on the back of your notes. That way you can have your notes open right next to you, and while we're writing, you can flip back and forth if you need to, okay? Your choice, just my suggestion. All right, so problem number 1. First of all, you have to know 2 things. Number 1, you have to go left to right. Sorry, thank you, my dear. You have to go left to right. You cannot start anywhere in the equation. Left to right, every single time, okay? Number 2, and I'm gonna trick you in a few minutes. Everything, and when I say every, I mean everything, is separate. Everything is separate. So my first equation is gonna say y equals the absolute value of x plus 2 minus 6. So if I'm reading left to right, the first thing I get to is this plus 2. That +2 is on the inside. Inside can only move horizontal. So it's moving left or right. What direction is a +2 moving? To the left. Why to the left? Inside is opposite. Very good. So left 2. Then I keep reading and I have a -6. -6 is on the outside. It can only move up or down. What's a -6 gonna move? Down 6. Very good. Okay, let's make it a little bit harder. I'm gonna have f of x equals -2 absolute value of x plus 3. Here's where I said I'm gonna try and trick you. Look at this problem. Don't write anything yet. Look at it and see how many transformations there are. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many transformations are there? Why do you say 3, Cyan? So x is just my letter to help me graph it. That x is not a transformation, okay? But thank you for answering. Jasmine, how many did you think? Why 2? Okay, there's only 2 numbers. Anybody else have a different idea? Any of my Zoomies have a guess how many transformations are there? What if
3?
I told you there are 3? Who said that?
Me.
Thank you, Colin. Why are there 3?
Mostly because that's like, I'm just gonna guess and say that's like a normal algebra problem with like y equals 3x plus 2, like we did in the last unit.
No, we're talking about transformations, not algebra problems. Y'all, what word did I just underline right here? Every single thing is different. So if I read from left to right, what's the very first thing my finger's gonna touch? What? No, it doesn't touch a -2. It touches a negative. Negative is its own thing. It's its own transformation. So a negative on the outside, look at your notes if you need to. That negative is on the outside. If I am outside, I am moving up and down. What axis am I jumping over? The x-axis. So that negative means that it reflects the x-axis. It also told us in our notes right here. Negative on the outside reflects the x-axis. I have a 2 on the outside. Is that vertical or horizontal? That's vertical. Why is it vertical? Because it's located where? Outside. Is it a stretch or a compress? Why is it a stretch? Because it's greater than 1. 2 is greater than 1, so it's a vertical stretch. What is it a vertical stretch by? By the number 2. Now, if I keep going across, I see a +3. Is that +3 inside or outside? Outside. Outside can only move up or down. Which way is that +3 moving? Up 3. Let's try another one because I need y'all answering me so I know you understand it. Yes, ma'am. That +3 told me it moved up 3. Everything before the x means it's doing a stretch, a compress, or a reflection. Everything after the x is a movement. That is telling me it's moving up 3. Okay? All right. Y equals absolute value of 1/3, parentheses, x minus 1, close my absolute value, minus 4. How many transformations are there? How many do we think? 3. I have a 1/3, I have a -1, and I have a -4. Is this 1/3 inside or outside? Inside. Horizontal or vertical? Horizontal. Stretch or compress? Why is it a stretch? What do you know about inside? Inside is opposite. So it looks like it's a compress, but it's going to be a stretch. What is it stretching by? By 3. Very good. I have a -1 inside. So what direction is it moving? It's moving what? Right. How many times? 1 time. I have a -4 on the outside. Which direction is it moving? Down. How many times? Down 4. Questions? Okay, here's what I'm going to give you then. I'm going to give you practice problems, and I need you to truly practice them. Okay, so back to my notes. Back to your notes. That's where we're going to go. Now we're going to go the opposite direction. We'll see if it helps us learn these things. Okay, so if I say that I have a function that moves left 3 and moves up 6, I want you to write the equation. If you write a skeleton equation, that means the bare bones of absolute value equation, and we put things where it goes, it makes it easier. So here's what a skeleton equation looks like. Y equals, and then I'm going to have my absolute value bars. That's my skeleton, okay? Now, if I put stuff in it, so if I am moving left, does that go inside or outside? Left is inside. Is it going to say +3 or -3? Why is it a +3? Because it's opposite. If I need to move up 6, is that inside or outside? Plus or minus? +6. That's my equation. So let's go try one that says it reflects the x-axis. It has a vertical stretch by 4, and it moves down 3. So I'm going to draw my skeleton, y equals, and I'm going to have some absolute value bars. If I reflect the x-axis, that means I'm jumping the x-axis. Which way am I moving if I jump the x-axis? Vertically. So is my negative sign inside or outside? Outside. Oh, vertical. Where am I? Inside or outside? Outside. A stretch by 4. So is it going to say 4 or is it going to say 1/4? It's going to say 4. Why does it say 4? It's outside. It's exactly what it says. Down 3. Down. Inside or outside? Outside. Down. Up. Positive or negative? -3. What has to go inside my absolute value bars? Has to. We're going to try one more. I'm going to say it's a horizontal compress by 1/3. It's going to move right 4, and it's going to move up 1. Draw your skeleton. Horizontal. Ooh, inside or outside? Inside. If it's inside, should it be a 1/3 or a 3? It should be a 3. It moved right 4, inside, outside. Inside, +4 -4. -4, what has to go with it? X. Up 1, inside, outside. Outside, plus or minus. Okay, listen, this is way wrong. Here's why. Nothing can touch your letter X. This 3 cannot touch that letter X. How can we separate things in math? By putting what? Parentheses. So the correct way to write this would say y equals the absolute value, 3 parentheses x minus 4 plus 1. Nothing can touch your letter X. Okay. So I'm going to put 6 more problems on the board. These are on class kick, but I don't want you to waste your time getting there because we don't have that much time. Okay. But it would be a good idea to get on there to practice typing this in because you have to type it in to your test on Tuesday. Okay. So write your answers on your paper and then we will type them in later. So here are your 6 problems. Write it kind of messy. I need you answering my questions. Every single one of these should have a skeleton. Let me change that color. Okay. Reflex. What symbol goes with the word reflect? Negative. X-axis means I'm jumping up and down. So is it inside or outside?
Outside.
Outside. Left 5, plus or minus?
Minus.
X plus 5. Up 6, plus or minus?
Plus
6. Plus 6, very good. Now, my second one, y equals my skeleton. Vertical, inside, outside?
Outside.
1/4 or 4?
1/4.
1/4.
1/4, thank you. Down 3, inside, outside?
Outside.
Plus or minus?
Minus.
What has to go inside?
X.
X, very good. Thank you to all my kids answering. Y equals, here's my skeleton. Horizontal, inside, outside?
Inside.
Inside. Is it a 2 or a 1/2?
1/2.
It's a 1/2. Right 8, inside, outside? Inside, plus or minus?
Minus.
-8. I have to have an X. Down 1, inside, outside?
Outside.
Plus or minus?
Minus.
Why is nobody in my class answering? Oh, 1/2 can't touch my X, so what do I have to do? Add my parentheses. Very good. Number 4, here's my skeleton. Vertical, inside, outside? Outside, 5 or 1/5? 5. Left 3, inside, outside? Inside, plus or minus? Plus 3 with my X. Very good. Number 5, here's my skeleton. Oopsies. Here's my skeleton. Right 2, inside, outside? Inside, plus or minus?
Minus.
2. Up 4, inside, outside?
Outside.
Plus or minus?
Plus.
Plus 4. Reflects the x-axis. If I'm jumping the x-axis, what direction am I going? Vertical. So is that inside or outside?
Outside.
Outside. Negative side. Horizontal. Inside, outside?
Inside.
1/3 or 3?
3.
What do I have to have?
X.
Parentheses and my X. Last one, I'm going to fit it in right here. Here's my skeleton. Reflex. I know I have a negative. Y-axis. If I'm jumping the Y-axis, which way am I moving?
Inside.
Horizontal. Inside. Down 2, inside, outside?
Outside.
Outside.
-2, what has to go inside?
X.
X, very good. This X, tricky. Does that X have to have parentheses? No,
No.
because there's no movement, okay? If you put parentheses, that's fine, okay? You have an IXL assignment for homework. I highly suggest it gets done today because we are graphing tomorrow. And if you can't do this, graphing is going to be very, very hard, okay? I need you here tomorrow. Please do not be absent. Are there questions? Nobody has questions about any of these problems? Tiana, question?